What's up guys, today I'm going to show you how I took the Weeknd's After Hours Till Dawn statue and put it on my street. Is it practical? Not really, not at all. But is it a flex of my skills? For sure. Let's get straight into how I actually made this. Alright, first up, the clean plate. Since we're using Colmap for tracking, the golden rule, nothing moves. No windy days and no erratic traffic. I'm going to be placing a giant robot on the asphalt. That means my camera is going to be pointed up to the sky. Colmap really hates the sky, but as long as at least 50% of the frame shows the ground, it should be safe. I shot this on a perfectly still sunny day on the Blackmagic camera app. Crucial tip, turn off all this digital and optical stabilization and crank the bitrate to the max. It looks really bumpy raw, but it's so much better for Colmap tracking. Because the statue is basically just a giant mirror, it needs to reflect me. So I slapped my phone on the tripod exactly where the statue would stand, and I did the exact same motions as I did before. Boom! Free interactive data. Finally, I put my phone to the widest angle it could and took 6 photos around me to stitch them all into a cube map later. We don't need a massive multi-exposure HDRI for this, we just need a quick and dirty cube map. For the tracking phase, I'm not going to be using the default Blender tracker because frankly it sucks, like just in general. Instead, I'm going to be using a Colmap driven solution. It's just a slightly modified Python script driven version of Polyfjord's already made thing, which just makes the terminal cleaner. Link in description. So I put my video in and waited for an hour for it to solve, and the track came out incredible. Next, I did something to save my sanity. I transcoded the original background footage from H.264 to ProRes 444 proxy. Why? It's because H.264 is a delivery codec. It uses the frames before and frames after and does some mathematical wizardry to make sure the pixels move however it needs. Your CPU has to do like advanced calculus on the fly just to scrub through the timeline. ProRes bakes the pixels for each frame, making scrubbing incredibly smooth, and you can do this for free in DaVinci Resolve. Next, it's time for the asset. I hear how all these 3D AI generators are eventually going to replace us as artists, so I thought, might as well check it out. I used Hunyan 3D along with Nano Banana to generate multiple views of the model. The first hurdle was that literally everything was in Chinese. Definitely fills me with confidence, making sure my data is not stolen. And after like 3 minutes of generation, the first model was, I won't lie, it was pretty impressive. The model was really smooth and the silhouette looked really nice. But the moment I imported it into Blender and looked under the hood, I think our jobs are safe for a little while. The topology was like a complete nightmare. It somehow was very high poly but looked low poly at the same time. So nothing a simple voxel remesh couldn't fix, and I replaced the texture that it gave me with an actual metallic shader, but then my developer mind kicked into focus. So about 2 hours later, I completely ditched the AI model and imported a metahuman instead. And I basically just remade the whole thing from scratch. I genuinely don't know where the time went, but the final custom asset was much more satisfied for me. To ground the VFX shot in reality, I decided to make a little footage where I go up and knock on the metal surface. I didn't actually hit anything on set because I wanted total control over the compositing and timing. So instead, I recorded myself knocking on nothing in front of my wall, keyed it out, shook it up a bit, and I composited it into the footage later. To get my reflection of the hand on the surface, I took pictures of the front and back of my hand, and I projected them onto a rigged 3D model of a hand. Then I curled it up to a fist and I animated the impact frames. Since the statue's shader was reflective but also a little distorted, it was more than enough to just have the suggestion of something tapping on there. For my reflection of the body in the statue, I took that secondary footage that I made and ran it through a custom little Python tool I made, using the Python transparent video library, which automatically pulls clean subject masks out of footage. I added that video to a plane in Blender and parented that plane to the camera. Then I also added some manual offsets to make sure that my body looks the same size in world space. So as I move closer, the reflection will scale up normally. Next step was to jump into cycles and fix up the environment. First thing I did was take those 6 wide-angle shots that I took and convert them to an equirectangular image using a little Python tool that I made. The chrome reflections now just look hyper-realistic, but the actual lighting data was flat. So I dropped the emission of the actual reflection down and I added a sunlight into the scene and positioned it the same way it was on the day of shooting. So I added a ground plane with an asphalt looking material, and I set the visibility to shadow catcher so we can get nice looking shadows. The dead giveaway that a composite object is fake is bad lighting. And my street has these overhanging leaves that should be hitting on the statue. I found a high resolution image online of a black and white tree branches to act as a gobo. I cut out the pieces I wanted with the knife tool and positioned them directly in front of the light source. Instant integration. Alright, just a little note. When I went up close to the statue on set, it seems like the tracker lost some points because it looks really jittery and not natural. Thankfully, since the asset fills out most of the scene and you can't see it touching the floor, I just went to the graph editor and smoothed out the curves in that specific area. The background moves a little loosely, but your eyes should be staying on the asset. So for the actual statue, a plain white chrome looked really boring, so I added some thin film interference at about 600 nanometers. Suddenly the statue started catching gorgeous iridescent lights of greens, blues, and yellows. To make sure that the asset doesn't look completely CG, I ran a Voronoi texture along with some subtle noise into the displacement to make the surface look a little bumpy. I finished it off by adding a scratch map and a low roughness water stain texture as well to make it look like this multi-million-dollar statue was weathering outside my street. I set the color management to Rec 2020 and the scene looked to standard and rendered out a pristine PNG sequence with transparency. I put that all into Resolve and I exported it as a ProRes 4444 video so I can get transparency and that really nice scrubbing. There was one problem though. The leaves on my tree should have been occluding the statue, but the thing is, on that day, the sky was completely blue and the leaves were completely green. So it was as easy as using an HSL keyer to key out the leaves and using a garbage mat to make sure the leaves only overlay on top of where it should be. So I layered that on top of the VFX element and the depth separation looked perfect. Since no lens is perfectly sharp, I added a tiny bit of Gaussian blur onto the CG element, and I also added some halation to make sure that the really bright metallic areas bleed into the camera's lens. Visuals mean nothing without good audio design. So for the knocks, I added first a heavy industrial knock sound effect, and a slight metallic ting with a really long delay to give the illusion that the statue is metallic and hollow inside. And since this is a statue from the Weeknd's tour, I had to do a little Easter egg. I took about a 3-second sample from the song Timeless, and I timed the deep 808s to hit on when I knock, letting the rest of the track wash out like a distant reverb. It's subtle, but it adds a little layer of polish. I added some heavy metal footsteps to whenever I step onto the bass plate, and a low frequency kind of pitch wind with some tiny metallic sparks to add a little more. Alright, so basically I went over the whole process on how I made it, but what did I actually make? Well, here you go, enjoy! Alright, so I want to make this real quick video about something over here. I don't even know, somebody like dropped a statue in front of our house. See that? Here, 1 second, let me switch my front camera. Alright guys, look at this thing. Oh my god, I don't really know how to explain it. It's just like a full metal statue, and it's just been dropped in front of our house. Like, look. Oh my god, here, let me show you as well. This thing is like a full metal construction. Watch. Ready? See that? Oh, it makes such a cool noise as well. Here, let me back up just a little bit. 1 second. Alright, there we go. Look. That is crazy. I don't even know what to say. It's like blocking all the cars. Guys have to go around it. But yeah, there's literally nobody here. I don't know who dropped this. But yeah, I guess it's probably not going to be here for long, so I guess I'll just take this video of it. Alright, I guess I'll see you later. Peace. Overall, I pulled this together in about 3 days. The other video I was working on was like a little web GUI for Colmap to make the tracking a little easier. But that was eating up a bunch into my dev time, and I wanted to upload at least another video this week because I kind of skipped last week. For like a 3-day turnaround, I am incredibly happy with what I was able to achieve. There's still a bunch of stuff I could fix. The tracking when I get close to the model is not that good still. The lighting is not perfect, there's still some work in there. And my acting could also use some work. That is crazy.
I don't even know what to say.
But every project is just a stepping stone to the next one. Both Python scripts, the video masking tool, and the CubeMac converter are completely live on my GitHub right now. Go grab them down below, and you can also check out Polyfjord's tracking video. So that's about it. Let me know what else you want me to build next or you want me to make next, and I guess I'll see you in the next one.